Let's see who we got here. Are you serious? Mike from around the world.
Pastor Paul.
How we doing tonight, Mike?
Well, I think I'd do better if my headset was actually on.
Oh,
Hold on just a minute.
Okay, put that on. Yeah, I hear you.
We
Good.
should be there. Wait a minute. Okay, there it is. It's turning on. Just a second.
Okay, no problem. We got coffee. We're good. Mike around the world. Technical issues. Don't blame it on PBT. I didn't do it this time.
Well, we should be good in a few minutes. I guess it'll switch over.
You sound great. I mean, just absolutely great. Can you hear me? That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
We hear you loud and clear.
Good.
Loud and clear,
Okay.
Mike. All right. Well, Mike, I'm a year older, so, am I close?
Happy birthday.
Well, thank you. Am I old as you are?
Happy birthday.
Oh, man. Guys, I tried. We're trying. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it.
There's one good thing, Pastor Paul.
Okay.
You no longer have a curfew.
Oh, that's true. At 62.
Well, wait a minute. Wait, I don't know. You'd have to ask your other half about that.
Okay.
I don't want to get in trouble.
Believe me, I got a curfew. If you ask my wife, yeah, there's a curfew here. All right. But I'm all right with that. All right. I'm all right with that. All right, Mike. Hey, Mike. Okay, you were on with us last Thursday, of course. We talked about the solar explosion on the sun. It was the largest one in 6 years. You and I both said, look out. We'll probably see an earthquake, maybe a volcano. Well, we saw both. We saw both. The here goes Iceland, unbelievable, and then China. We have a killer quake there. 137 dead, 982 hurt, and probably more still buried in the rubble. So, and you gave us several dates to watch for. So, tell us what's happening here. I mean, it was spot on this. You were spot on.
Well, Pastor Paul, first of all, it's very difficult. It's very difficult, first of all, because collecting raw data. Essentially, here's what happens. You collect raw data, signals from systems. It's not going through a filter or anything, right? So you have to do variance, amplitude, phase shifting, and keying, and all these different things. And you create data sets. The data set from the last one was about 20. It was about 3 terabytes of data. Can you imagine a database that's 3 terabytes of data? Anyway, so I parse that, right? So I have the hardware, right? I do that myself. I parse that data and pull out different, let's just say different points that I've learned over the years, which gives us, it'll give you a good idea as to the energy factors that are coming in. And of course, the sun's data is related to that, and all this, that, and the other, and it takes a lot of time. But what's happening is, through that, you get the identification of radiation signatures coming into our solar system. So it's not easy. Nobody else is going to really, spend their time and do that to give it to people. And so I do that quite a bit. But we have these large energy pulses coming in. They're coming in from one direction too. That's what's so astounding, right? Every time you do a sweep, you get these pulses coming in from one direction, not 2 or 3, just one direction. So just so everybody understands, it's not quite an exact science, but it is some type forecast for, the Christian community.
Right.
But Pastor Paul, it's been pretty accurate so far. So the algorithm itself that exists, of course, I have to do that manually most often. But it's becoming more and more precise because the energy pulses are so much more defined, right? Less noise, a lot more key factors involved. And we have a lot more coming in.
Is that because it's closer? I mean, obviously, it's because it's getting closer, I guess.
Yeah, and when you have guys, some of the folks that, because I'll consult on occasion, next year, these guys are going to lock down the books. Now, what does that mean? That means look for a lot of scrubbing of data on the internet. It's going to be like, no real data on the internet, no hiccups or anything, right? They're running all these optics to these websites through an AI type filter system. So it's going to be nobody's going to catch anything, which is unfortunate, because how in the world the people going to know anything if everybody wants to keep it a secret. And of course, everybody knows America's pretty good at that, keeping
Right.
everything under
Right.
lock and key. The bad part is we have the formation of more than just heavenly events, but we have events, period, that are just indicating, something is just no good. It's just no good. And of course, seeing all the information that I do, you can't help but to put together a picture that preparations are in place. Sometimes, budgets will go right past my face from time to time, and you see where the focal point of money is going. And it paints a pretty a solid picture that the earth is changing on a permanent basis. And that, there are many people making preparations, but the people, they don't know.
Right.
How
So
can the people know?
so the
They don't know.
preparations, I take it, I'm just going to guess, is the underground cities and underground uh, compartments of preservation for the human race.
Well,
And
that's ongoing.
yeah.
Pascal, that's been going on for a long time. But when you have the majority of profits or black budget material no longer going to certain uh, individuals like Lockheed and Skunk Works and other folks that are involved, but they're redirected funds, and you have arguments over who's going to get the rest of the funds. There's a problem because you're looking at our food system has altered, different, changed, not the same anymore, right? Which is going to make it pretty rough for those who manufacture, food outside of these major corporations. You have the fuel system, right? That's going to be changing. Of course, our financial system is being digitized, and everybody's getting ready for all that to be digitized, which will allow 100% compliance and control over where finances are, who has what, right? So on and so forth. The world is, the preparations are expansive, really expansive. And other countries, right? For example, other countries have, they're quite angry because the USA often will hold back things from everybody, right?
Right.
And leave them out of the loop. Well, they don't like that. China knows something is going to happen. Russia knows things are progressing, right? Everybody knows this. And so, what do you see right now? You see every single country breaking away from how it used to work to be more independent and develop things.
Yep.
And now they're fighting over whatever resources they can get, land grabs, you name it. And this is so they can continue to make because they want to save their own skins,
Right.
right?
Right.
If that hypothetical, if we are very close to a catastrophic type situation where we have a massive change, they're going to try and protect themselves and save themselves, and you'll be able to see what they're doing by some of the wars that are happening right now are ridiculous, foolish, right? They're very
Right.
foolish until you start look at who's investing in these wars, right? That will show you something because who would drop $900 million on a war for what, right? So
Right.
there's certainly a plan, and when we get those telltale signs where people can actually see them, when earthquakes start to trickle up, volcanism continues, the dryness comes with massive flooding, right?
Yep.
Then hopefully people will get the picture that we're not going back to normal, but we're undergoing some cyclical change that we have forgotten about or that's never been recorded.
So, you bring up some great points here that we're not going back to normal. This is the new normal. And let's talk a little bit about a couple things. Uh, let's talk about Iceland for a minute. You talk about volcanism. This was quite an eruption. It's different because it's this big rip, almost 3 miles. It's about almost 3 kilometers long. But they say it's going to be spewing this hot lava for months. Is the city of Grenoble still in danger, or how big is this thing
Yeah,
underneath
yeah,
there?
I'd say it is. Well,
Yeah.
you have stacks. You have think of it. You know how Yellowstone has that big,
Yep.
open chamber in the
Cauldron.
bottom,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Well, think of 15 to 20 chambers like that below Iceland. That's what you're looking at.
No. No. No.
Yeah, that's what
Seriously?
you're looking at. So it's almost like a like some sort of a termite mound, right? Has
Yeah.
different a bunch of chambers in there, right? But be honest with you, the rate of flow that's coming out of Iceland is not enough to relieve the pressure that's building up because we all these solar winds, they're being captured uh, by the magnetosphere, right? Pumped into the Earth. The radiation is redirected by magnetic field lines. It's being redirected back into the Earth, right? Which is overcharging the Earth from the inside out. So we don't have good relief points. So if we don't have additional eruptions, soon we're going to have larger and larger earthquakes. In fact, with volcanic eruptions, volcanism is simply somebody shook up the champagne bottle and the cap blew off, right?
Right.
In this case, it's been shaken up quite a bit, and the Earth is overcharged,
Mm,
right? It's
mm.
emitting more and more gamma rays than normal. It's messed up a few neutrino detectors, which are isolated because they're deep inside the Earth. But when the Earth begins to emit too much gamma radiation, it messes up their sensor capabilities, right? That's what's happening. So the Earth is absorbing a lot of energy, and there's hardly any output, right? We just don't have enough relief points, and that means big earthquakes are coming, or smaller earthquakes and higher intervals, and more of them.
So, okay, when you talk about these earthquakes we had, of course, China had a deadly one. And there's, of course, I got to bring this up. There was an earthquake today in Alaska, 6.1 in Anak, Alaska. But
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
if I'm right, and I could be wrong, obviously I could be wrong, that we talked about this last week that there was a base, abandoned military base that apparently info I got was from inside the government that this base was tried to be overrun or secretly taken because they thought it was abandoned by the Chinese. But the Americans were hiding there and they stopped them. I heard that it was actually in Anak, Alaska. Now we have a quake in Anak, Alaska. Is that just weird? Is it just a coincidence or?
well, you know what? Alaska itself is weird. It is. It is. I know a lot of, well, not a lot, but a few folks who have retired out of the intelligence community. That's one of the first places they wanted to go.
Really?
The reason being is because of what's underground. There's a lot of mystique underground in Alaska, right? And
Right.
it's to be, I wouldn't want to. I'm not going there.
Well, I mean,
I'm
you
not going there.
you brought up about this door, some door in Alaska a couple
Yeah,
years ago.
there's too much in Alaska, and of course it's not, it's not public. It's still in the area of mystique and classified intelligence reports.
Okay.
But Alaska is a place that it has many mysteries, but those mysteries bite, and some people have ran into trouble there. Um, I just wouldn't go there. There's a lot of activity underneath the earth in Alaska, so I'm not surprised if recent events would cause some type of response or earthquakes hit there in certain areas. That then, because it will turn into something, right? All you have to do is track the earthquakes, track those earthquakes, and then all of a sudden you'll find out there are going to be, some military movements in that area,
Mm.
right? The people get harassed by military movements. It happens all the time. But let's go ahead and face it. We have an element on this earth that a lot of people don't want to discuss, and they've been here since the beginning. And at some point, they're going to cause their interferences.
Okay. Now you're moving to another level here. In other words, we've talked about this, that some entities that have been here a long time that are now under the ground, and they have been, they've come in and out. They're surfacing. I mean, is this? I mean, look, the book I got coming out, Revelation 9:11, is about Apollyon coming out of the bottomless pit with a band of demons, or entities. I mean, obviously something's going to happen. John knew about it 2,000 years ago. You're saying that we're aware of it now. Is that true?
Oh yeah, they've been aware of that for a long time, and they don't call them aliens.
No.
That's not what they call them.
Okay.
That's more of a populist type thing, but that's not what they call
What do
them.
they call them?
Others,
Others. Okay.
others, yeah, and they also call them liars, right? Because they never tell them. They never tell the truth. They don't. They will always, it seems, they always misdirect, right? But it is very ancient, spiritual. It's the fallen angels are what they are. Some of the ones that weren't locked up because only 200 got locked up on Mount
I
Hermon.
know
The
that's
rest
true. Yep.
are out there. They're cast into the earth. They're doing things all over the place, but that will no longer be a mystery, soon enough. But yeah, they deal with that a lot in Alaska. Alaska's a place swarming with activity just like that, swarming.
All right. Now we've heard about a guy named Phil Schneider that back in I don't know, maybe in the '90s, maybe, um, who tried to bring some of this forward. Now I don't know if you know. Is there anything you could share on that, or is that classified?
Well, I think it's the guy is it the I think it's a guy who said he went underground, right, with
Yep.
Delta operator escort,
Yes.
and they got into a small firefight, right? Well, there are for the Air Force, um, they do have escorts, because you never know what you're going to face, what situation you're going to get into, and well, just like overseas, people have ran into things, right?
Yep.
But that's a that's a special operations community issue right there of and they if they run into things like that, Pascal, it's unfortunate, number one, that people don't know that. But if you look back at the history of America, right,
Mm-hmm.
why is it that we have every uh every known civilization, right, all the architecture is here? Why? Especially in the Grand Canyons. Why do we have that? Egyptian things, right?
That's
uh,
crazy.
the large 22-foot long. That's where they found the axes. Axes that weigh about 2 tons, knives that are 7-foot long knives
What?
with hand worn shafts in them, right? Iron that does not rust, things of that nature.
In the
And
Grand
so,
Canyon? In the Grand
yeah,
Canyon?
all that. You know what? The America before anybody ever got here, right? The Native Americans, um, they had a pact with something here. And when the settlers actually got here, they had to tussle with some things here. It was a very spiritually challenging place,
Unbelievable. Now, this is
but it
this.
was right here.
But I mean, I got to deal with this because King Tut. If we run over to Egypt for a minute and we find, they find his grave finally, find in his inside, he has a dagger in there that's made of exotic metal that they couldn't have. They weren't. We weren't even in the Bronze Age then. I mean,
Right.
and it's got like precious stones in it. It's gold. It's incredible. Okay, so there's some stuff that's unexplained that are certainly happening that we have not been made privy of. We just now finding stuff out. We ask questions, but I know that there's stuff been going on, ancient things that are happening that are still happening. Those ancients don't go away, and so
Oh yeah.
we're dealing with them. Let me ask you a question, Mike, because Mike, I today I watched the movie Leave the World Behind that Barack and Michelle Obama put out. They have a company called Higher Ground Productions. The movie is apocalyptic, no doubt about it. It also is very socially stimulating, but it's dealt with this that the United States came under an attack either by China or there was you got the impression it was either China and or Korea with China or some kind of Islamic. They dropped papers saying it was the Islamic regimes saying death to America, which means maybe it was Iran. But anyway, what happened was a cyber attack that caused the power grid of every major city to go out. It caused boats to run aground. It caused planes to fall out of the sky. It caused, they used weapons of high pitched sounds that brought people to their knees, similar to what happened in Cuba and Havana. And the animals went nuts, and people turned on one another. And at the end, it said that the plan was create chaos and then confusion by disinformation, and then let the people kill each other off and then take the nation. This was the agenda. Now, we know the President of the United States, former President Obama, has access to everything. So why would they make a film? It's his first film. Why would he make a film? Is this predictive programming? Is this a warning? What do you think this was about?
You know, I saw a piece of the book, not the movie, but the
Okay, the
book,
book. All right.
just a piece. And the guy who wrote the book, he's he's a character.
Okay.
I think it's what is it, Roman Alam or
Uh,
something like that. Anyway,
yeah, yeah.
I did not see the movie. Right, I
Okay.
didn't see the movie, but I certainly heard some folks wrote me some emails about that movie and asked me that a similar thing. Was it a warning? Well, if the Obamas were in this, right?
Yeah.
And then, folks, I'm not going left or right on this. I'm
No,
just
no, no,
simply
no.
stating some things. But let's go ahead and face it. The Democrats have an ideology. Uh, they always talk about global warming, right?
Right,
They
right.
always talk about people having individual rights beyond that of any supervision. Meaning, I wouldn't doubt if that movie gave way to an idea to let go of all ideologies in order to make it,
Okay.
because that kind of follows everything they're trying to put out there. I wouldn't doubt if it really conveys that everybody failed their responsibilities, right? I wouldn't doubt that,
Yeah.
because they have a habit of taking fertile material, and they exploit it. Democrats do. They do this all the time. And so they also seem to target the independence of children for some reason, right?
Okay.
For example, some of the laws that have passed that allow children to make decisions on what they're going to be, you know, uh,
Right, right,
opposite of what they are.
right.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that were a heavy theme in this case. But one of the main things that everybody kept saying was this a warning, right? Now, I could probably not sum up that movie, but tell you that number one, Hollywood,
Okay.
Netflix, all those guys, right?
Yep.
All of them do predictive programming, or nobody's going to pay for the movie. Number one.
Right. I
In
think
other
you're
words, it
right.
has to follow the ideology of the plan, right? Whatever
Okay.
plan they have in motion, it must support and follow that, or else they'll cut the funding to it. They won't fund it.
Mm.
Number two, children again are always involved, and they do with programming. Period. They will always somewhat exploit or bring out people's fears, right? And then
Yes.
explain
Yes.
to them that your fears are in this realm of chaos. And the only way to escape that is to escape everything connected with those fears, which basically means leave leave what you thought you were living behind.
Yes.
And then they because of their policies, they always tell people to, you got to go forward in life to do what you want to do. That's what they teach,
You're right.
right? To do what you want to do, not what your parents have tried to distill in you, but to do what you want to do. In fact, they teach that your parents can hold you back. They teach that community is higher than family,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
They teach that. They also teach that community and family are lost, and that the child has a responsibility to forge a new path into a new world, leaving these old ideologies. So, also, have you noticed that any movie, any far left person makes some sort of a focal point of noise is involved. A
Yes.
focal point
Okay.
of
Okay.
noise,
Okay.
right? And you'll also hear that word noise in their speeches. You'll hear it, right? Like
Wow.
it's like noise is some sort of a sound that everybody else makes, right? That's an annoyance,
I
and
see. I
and that
see.
it will ultimately drive everything into the ground, right? They always have this thing. So psychologically, those are psychological points, I guess you could say, but they have these consistent, concurrent themes to everything they do, to their policies. I didn't see the movie, but I can almost guarantee that same stuff is in there.
You're exact. It is. It's exact. It's like you watched it. Okay. So I mean, they they use that exact scenario to try to break down the youth in this movie, to bring division between the parents and the children. They use the noise, if you will, of the sound, which was to bring confusion and disillusion and you know create an imbalance not only of people physically but mentally and socially and spiritually. They break these folks down. People are left to their own thoughts of what's happening. We don't know, and so then all of the demonic, anything you could think of it could be bad, starts coming out of them. They start pointing fingers at one another. It's demonization of each other in the middle of a chaotic situation. I find that almost unbelievable. Julia Roberts, who's in the film, is portrayed as really a mean, dissatisfied individual who blames everybody for everything in this film. And it's kind of like, okay. And then she says, but that's what we all are. Everybody. There's nobody good here. We're all this way. And I'm thinking, well, we all could be that way, but we're not all that way. I mean, so anyway, long story short, this was a setup that certainly is to bring fear. This will bring conspiracy theories, fear, distrust. It had a lot of racial division in it. Really wanted to play that hand so they could get people to start turning and not trusting each other. There was a lot of that going on. And don't trust each other. Don't trust your neighbor. Don't trust your family members. It was really bad. But at the end of the day, I think this was a message that they're sending. It's coming. Sure it's coming. Something's coming soon.
Sure. Let me ask you this: Who does anybody? Does Julia Roberts survive in the end? Who survives in the end, and who dies?
They all survive.
Uh-huh.
And they leave you with the thought that what's going to happen to these people? Like, what's next? We're at the climax, and they end the movie. Okay, they leave you there with now the chaos will really begin, and the chaos is people turning on each other. They stop though right there, as if there's a sequel coming later. I don't know. They leave you right there. Nobody dies. Everybody's at the brink of killing each other.
Well, that sounds like that.
That sounds like Hollywood.
But Hollywood, Paul, Hollywood has. Here's why a lot of people will say, like, take The Simpsons, for example. They'll say, you know what, The Simpsons predicted that this would happen. Well, but think of it this way. The writers involved in Hollywood, right? They are critical thinkers.
Yes.
Is what they are.
Yes.
And they also have advisors that are normally, in some sort of seat where they can see everything. And so they feed these writers information. Now, the writer themselves, they normally stay within a specific plan, right?
Yeah.
And they're not telling the future. What they're doing is they're teaching people and giving people these weird motivations. They're telling people how to live. They're telling people what to fight for. They're telling people how they should respond, right?
Yep.
That's exactly what they're doing. Every movie prior to, for example, President Trump, all these different movies they showed, right? They had they always had people in some sort of buildup of a feud. And then it looked like whoever that character in command was responsible for some overlooking some disasters, something like that, right? Before Obama, they had African American presidents embedded in movies that were connected to disasters. And so what happened when Obama was in office? Everybody thought a disaster, just like the movies, was going to happen.
You're right.
And it was just like it was scripted. Young people, when they watch this stuff, they may think it's passive, but everything a person sees becomes a part of their world. They have to deal with it, right? The emotional side of it, the ideological side of it, all these different components they have to now deal with. And believe it or not, by the reactions of these folks in the movies, whatever they were, kids are then taught to react the same way. For example, music, right? If a child listens to music and they rehearse something over and over again, in real life, they will respond with the phrases that are found in the music. They'll respond just like the music told them to respond. Because once you rehearse something over and over again, it becomes instinct, right? That's how you're going to react. So, which means that all of us have emulated someone. But who have we emulated, right? No, and I hate to ruin everything, but nobody's original. And what I mean by that is somebody designed the clothing we wear. Somebody has, you know, we have an example for everything that we do and follow and aspire to be. And so these movies, when they come out like that, especially when they have a big audience,
Yep.
these kids watch this stuff. And
Yep.
that's exactly what they force to happen
There
because they get in
was
a certain mindset.
there was a scene in there I forgot to tell you about, and that was they show the sun, they show the Earth from the moon, and they showed some bright light coming toward the Earth, and then the Earth becomes a eclipse of the moon. So the moon, from the surface of the moon, you see the Earth in a ring of fire in the middle of the sun. Why? You know why?
That's kind of
Why?
obvious, right?
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
obvious, right?
yeah. So, and
That's kind of
I don't
obvious.
have nothing to do with the movie, but they give you that as if to say
Yeah, it's
this
kind of
is
obvious.
coming. So the chaos you're watching on Earth is it's happening because of what's coming in the heavens. You're left with that impression. I don't know if most of the populace will see that, but I mean, it was right there in your face. So you're like, okay, so we're on the twilight, or we're in the end of this journey here. The planet Earth is about to go through an apocalyptic scenario. So the Earth is going to have massive chaos. Maybe it's a battle for resources, as you've been saying, is already taking place. I think it's already happening. Let's talk, and on that subject, let's move a little bit into another direction. I mean, we've got the Venezuela thing. You've talked about it last week. You said the bloodshed will come from this Venezuela Guyana situation.
Yeah, yeah.
Exxon, is it because Exxon Mobil's there, and there's gold, there's diamonds, there's oil, there's gas? It's resources, isn't it?
It's pitiful, is what it is, and because here's what countries do. They'll exploit the poverty of another place, right, by keeping it out of the news, out of people's eyes, so they can go in there and that's their backup, right? Think of it as an auxiliary tank. Now the world is moving to elements like lithium, for example, right? And believe it or not, oil is going to become a thing of, well, let's just say it'll become secondary based on some new materials that they're now utilizing and found out that they can utilize and do some extraordinary things. Um, but it's in South America, right? It's not here in America, it's in South America. And so obviously they're going to start exploiting more and more minerals from that place. See, we were overseas, right? And then we left, we took everything from there. Most people did. And then we up and left it. But we don't have a lot of lithium mines here in America, things like that. So they're going to snag whatever they can snag. And when it comes to political movements, they normally turn something into a political, I'd say it's sham or something like that, to convince their constituents how much they need to be there. But so that little piece chunk of land, right? That little chunk of land is very rich strategically,
Mm.
but really by way of materials, right? It's not really. Nobody has ever tapped into it that way. Oil, yes, but not other ways, right? And so that's why it's going to spark some controversy. It already has. I mean, you don't send U.S. troops to places like that unless something is worth having, right?
That's
We're,
right.
we're certainly not supporting that type of government because Russia is in that same vicinity. China is in that same vicinity, and all of them are they're doing what they can to get positioned uh, for this new type of life everybody is going to be living, and that's because power and industry is changing, right? Remember, they said they announced once and then they kind of dropped it. Hey, we have nuclear fusion and some other types of fusion are made possible through a discovery that they finally had, right?
Yeah.
Star City in China is they're developing that too. Of course, I thought it was funny because it it took it took 90% more energy to extract 1% of energy based on that experiment. So that didn't quite work out,
That
right?
don't work out very
But
good.
but they have found some minerals a combination of minerals under conditions that will yield almost endless power. And of course, CERN is they're doing what they're doing, right?
Yeah, let's
And
talk
that's
about
going to
that.
change. That's going to change everything.
Let's talk about
Everything.
CERN. Let's talk about CERN. You just read my mind. CERN is obviously. I mean, as I said, I met a guy who said he worked 31 years at CERN, and he came to see me. Actually, he heard I was going to be on the Jim Baker show, and that I was preaching there in Branson. So he came to see me, and after I was done preaching that, he sat down with me for a few minutes and told me, he said, "Look, I worked at CERN for 31 years. They have pierced the veil, Paul. They're scared to open the portal of what it could mean. They don't know what is on the other side. There's actually could do it, but they're afraid. What do you think about that, Mike? Is he off base? Is he right?
I think mankind has dealt with some discoveries
Okay,
that they cannot control, right? I also think in a few cases they have released things that cannot be
put back in the
captured
bottle.
again,
Yeah.
right? It's kind of like biological warfare weapons, right? You develop some biological contagion, and you can't make a cure for it. So what you end up doing is putting it down at the bottom of the ocean inside a volcano or something, right? So nobody can ever get to it. They have made things, Paul, that if they are released, uh, everything is lost,
They've
right?
made
And why
things.
in the world would somebody make something like that, right?
So, so you're saying at CERN they made some things. Maybe it's technology or some kind of explosiveness, or they made something that they can't let out. They realize, whoa, are you right? Is that what you're?
Their collisions, those little collisions,
Yeah,
right, that
yeah.
they're having, that everybody talks about. One good rule of thumb is this, and all you have to do is look at things historically. Everything they ever publicize, everything they have ever publicized has never been the objective of which they were going for. So they told everybody, we're doing these collisions and we're hoping to find this, that, and the other. I'm sure they are. But I can almost guarantee you that's not their main modus operandi in that place, right? Historically, every time they tell the public that they're making these great discoveries, right, we find out later on in history that's not what they were doing.
Okay.
And that the bigger discoveries that have actually changed everything in the world was what they did not discuss too much, right? When they make stuff public, often it can consume people's minds, have them looking in a specific direction while in fact they're working on something else. For example, while everybody's talking about the collisions at CERN, right? What
Yeah.
about the super magnets? That
What?
is some of the most impressive technology anybody has ever seen.
Super magnets.
Those magnets they have at CERN to hold
Okay.
that beam in place.
Okay.
Does anyone understand what that takes
No.
to keep that beam in place,
No.
right? To actually track that beam, the particulates in groups, to activate those magnets to keep it in place. You're talking about a magnetic system that can alter our magnetosphere, right?
That's
And
huge. That's
and we
huge.
already know this. We already know that radiation follows magnetic lines of force.
Yeah.
If someone could create a bubble, a magnetic bubble over a city, and somebody else launched a nuclear weapon, do you not know that they can redirect the radiation somewhere else by magnetics? Now, they've already accomplished this at CERN, right? They've already done this.
So
Do
in
you
other
also know
words,
that
you're saying say a nuclear bomb exploded at one spot, but they could take the radiation from the explosion and redirect
and
the rate.
redirect it? Yeah.
Wow.
That's magnetic lines of force, right? That's how energy travels in just about everything observed. They will follow magnetic field lines of force, right?
Mm.
That's why gravity is not really gravity as people thought it was. It's not. And they really didn't talk about that too much, but they found now some other properties of gravity. That's why people are going to be talking about anti gravity machines like they're a gas tank or something, right? It's going to become common knowledge. It's not going to be too far out there. They just have to learn how to make it where just anybody can't do it. So when all the funds go digital, then they can control who's making what, right? Just like the phones.
Yeah.
Think of the phones. Before phones went digital, right?
Right.
People were talking about things they shouldn't have been talking about for a long time.
Right.
As soon as they mandated that everything go digital, right? It cut the communication lines on a lot. And from that point, we got a little more grip on these external countries. Well, AI has come out now, right? So it's going to increase how we communicate, right? While everybody's looking at AI to be like a Terminator, they're forgetting that AI is already implemented, and they have to
Yeah.
control who can actually make, develop, and deploy AI. Right. The only way to do that is to have absolute and total control over people's resources. The only way to have control over resources is that everything be digitized so they can have a live inventory of what everybody has. And then they bring out all the goodies, right? Like those batteries that don't need to be. Can you imagine a battery that lasts for about 8, 9, 10 years and it's made out of glass? How about that?
What? Out of glass?
Yeah. And those work right now, right? They work right now. In fact, isn't it Elon Musk was the one who was trying to get them to bring out that technology so he could use it? Right. So there are things like that that do exist. They seem like they're far out there. The bad news is these things were created 5, 6 years ago. Right. And they were perfected. They're ready for public distribution. Apple wanted to, I guarantee you this new iPhone has a power pack in that phone that is from that new technology, and they will never go dead. Right. Why in the world would
Okay.
Apple
Which
just give everybody the new phone and say, oh, it's made out of titanium? Come and get it. I could see if that was a military phone and they said, hey, if your phone gets shot, you can still use it, right? But why would a civilian want a phone that's made out of titanium? They can't, it has a better camera. Whoop de doo. How many
right.
how many lines of resolution can you
I
see?
don't know. I
You can
can't see
only
the
see so
pixels.
much,
I can't
right?
see
And
clearly now. I mean, the pixels are blinding.
right,
Right.
and out of all you use on that phone, it's at about 5% of what that phone can actually do.
They say this phone I have, and I don't have the new one. This is I don't know what 13. I don't know what it is. They say this phone I have is got more technology in it than a lot of the satellites that circle the Earth. Is that true?
Yeah, because a lot of those satellites are antiquated.
Yeah.
They're
I'm talking
antiquated.
about the old ones, right? They're still
Yeah,
floating.
they're antiquated.
Yeah. I do know. I talked to a guy who said that he was given privilege to see iPhone 30. It's a. I mean, they're that far out there, but they're holding them back.
Yeah, they
Together.
are.
And he
They
said,
are.
I better not say what he said. It's insane. But anyway, I
They
mean,
do things for.
yeah,
That's how their companies survive, right? That they're never in a rush.
right.
But they just keep, they keep people in the. Well, see, pass ball. That's why I attempt to do what I do, right? Taking raw information, right, and utilizing computers to extract usable data from it,
Yeah,
like solar flares,
we like
right?
solar flares.
Like heavily issues and problems. Not prophecy. This is data
Right,
analytics. As
right.
that's what that is,
So what
and it's very difficult
you have
to.
access. You have access to data, and you're able to, and you know what you're doing with it, and you're able to abstract it and put it together and create and understand it. And it's being done. Tell me that's also being done within the governments of the world, but that's kept under a wrap.
Oh, they do it at Passport. They have their techniques of doing things so efficiently, right? I mean, they're never going to, in my opinion, they're not going to be afraid of anything but Christ. Nothing else is going to scare them, right? In my case, though, right, you can't use any of that equipment for personal use.
I know.
But I have the know-how, right? So
Yeah,
I
you know
developed
how.
my own hardware and my
Ah,
own programs and a small little OS to essentially take, if I could like a radio broadcast, right? FM. I take
yep.
that FM signal, I pull everything out of the air, I analyze it, digitize it. That takes a whole lot. That took 3 years for me to perfect to get that out of it. Then I go through the data to take out different symbols or points, and they're 4 bits per symbol. You take that out, it creates a data set of terabytes. You go through there, and then you extract, right? What is what? Then you classify, and you'll start to see, X-rays and ultraviolet and gamma and cold, heat, all these different data points, and that becomes usable data because I essentially paint a picture from raw data that's all going all over the place. Now, in some cases, it comes by direct observation, and what I mean by that is when I'm doing what I do. Um, Sometimes you'll see things they're not classified. It's
Right.
just that nobody's ever going to talk about it,
Because
right?
nobody else can
And
see it.
so
Right.
Yeah, they're just not going to talk about that stuff. And so I will see it, and it kind of, gives me a nudge to start looking in a specific direction so Christians have this knowledge. Because I'll tell you something, Pascal. People, for example, sometimes it's a hit and miss thing. It is because it's all data
Right.
analytics. But one day, Pastor Paul, one day, a warning will come out. People are not going to listen, right? They're not, because
Yeah.
a lot of people cry wolf. And I'm
Yeah, I
trying
know.
not to cry wolf,
Right.
but people are not going to listen. And it's going to cost millions of lives. It will cost millions of lives because people are not going to pay attention.
So shows
So the
like
one,
shows like we're doing here, you and I talking, is a way to kind of allow some of this information to be out there, so where people can pick up on it. Okay, so I mean, being careful about it, but at the same time, that's what we do. I mean, that's what we've been doing for almost 10 years now, is to give people that pay attention, watch here, keep an eye on this, learn.
right,
Yeah,
right.
and you do a great job at walking all around it and protecting classified information, and yet giving people an opportunity to know there's something really real going on, and we have to keep our eyes on. All of it's tied to the Bible. I mean, it's not, it's tied to the Bible, and it's to help us come to the knowledge of Christ, but it's also to warn us, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah, because if a person is surprised by something that happens, right, fear can actually debilitate a person, right?
Right.
Fear can cause a person to turn against their whole family, and we're talking about good people.
Yep.
So if a person is overtaken by fear, it's because they had no idea. They were living in specific conditions. However, if a person has knowledge of it, right, they may get irritated and aggravated. Well, I've heard this before, this, that, and the other, but at least they know. They know now, right, where they didn't know before. Kind of like the weather. I talked about the weather a lot. Every time
Right.
I would bring up a conversation, the weather was a part of it. Now look what we're facing, right? Look at last year, the hottest year on record. The ocean was the hottest it's ever been. It's going to be worse this year. We're supposed to be at a, this solar cycle that's here, right? We're supposed to have minimal activity. The sun is supposed to be,
Yeah,
diminishing in all its effects, and the opposite is happening.
it's
And
opposite.
so, things like that, when they begin to happen, people say, well, what's causing it? What's causing it? And you're not going to look around and you'll find speculation. You'll find, everybody's theory. But what about somebody who can actually snag some data that's not going to get in the way or step on the toes of government and what they have
Right.
to do,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because nobody ever wants to tell a governmental secret because that puts the country at risk,
No, you can't
right?
do that.
That'd be
No,
highly irresponsible.
that's irresponsible.
That would be bad, right?
Right. Right.
That's
Right.
treason,
That's
basically.
right. That
In,
is.
in my
Yes.
book, that would
Yeah.
be treason. But if you can collate, um, after you multiplex radio signals, right, and sort those out and paint a picture of what you're receiving, so that good people out there can understand, that's a different story,
Right.
right?
Right.
If somebody out there had the right, because people with the right mind, BP Earthwatch, Gil Broussard, these guys, they have the right mind for this, right? They specialize. Their lives are specialized in these
Yep.
specific fields. So if they had the right data, they're not going to get the wrong picture,
Nope.
right? So a
Nope.
person like me who can see many things, why not get them the right data? And it's not easy. It's not straightforward. But ultimately, it works. It works out.
You mentioned that. You mentioned last week. You mentioned Gil Broussard and BP Earthwatch, and I told Heidi after the show. I said, Heidi, that's our next webinar. Mike has just called it. We're going to go find both these guys plus a couple others, Stan Deo, and there's a couple others, and we will, along with you, Mike, and we will do a webinar in late January, in which we're going to allow these individuals to have an opportunity to tell us what they've seen so far since the last time we talked to them.
Right.
And they listen to you, of course, and they have access to. They don't have access to what you have to, but they can, with what they have access to, they're pretty good at understanding what it means. I mean, they're
Oh yeah.
you know that.
Yes. Oh yeah.
So
Oh
that's why
yeah.
you've mentioned them. That's why you've said,
Oh
hey,
yeah. That's right.
and we
That's
need
right.
this. It's time.
That's
Let me
right.
ask you this question: as a pastor, is the urgency here, Mike, that this needs to be
Yes.
what we talk about in January?
Yes. I'll say it again, Pascal. Listen. some folks said they were, pulling the books on some things.
Okay,
What
I
that
heard you
means
say that.
is
Scrub the
they're
internet.
going to shut, they're going to shut the data, the information, everything that is usable, because you don't do that unless something has happened, and you have to lock it down so nobody knows, right?
Right.
If you lock something down so nobody knows, that means the organization is in a critical phase of preparation. That happens before big wars, right? In with small, tiny books. That happens before wars. That happens before
Wow.
global events. Never would anybody ever say, we're going to shut the books on all this stuff.
Yeah, from the
That's never
heavens.
happened. So when people get angry because they can't get usable information from the internet anymore, right? Just go ahead and face it. Any solar data or anything like that is coming from the internet, period,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that internet data, that data is scrubbed. It is not real time. It is scrubbed, right? They do that real time. So they can actually pull the wool over people's eyes right now by showing them what they show them. And so this year coming up is going to be very critical. My personal opinion is going to be dangerous, very dangerous, be extremely dangerous, and very dark. I mean, dark, right? Um,
Dark meaning because of the effects we're going to get from the heavens,
well, from that,
or from
and
the
then you
internet,
have,
or the internet being scrubbed and disinformation by the powers that
well,
be.
that too, Pastor, but you have open ceremonies that will start taking place in 2024. For example, the Church of Satan is now in the White House,
Yeah.
right, doing stuff in the White House, right? They're having these demonic ceremonies. Here's the problem, though. That's why we're having more and more death. Death in those areas. People are losing their minds, and it's not some psychological sickness. This is a real, whatever's happening is real. But I would, having said that, because I know people get frightened. All they have to do is read 1 John 5:18. Satan cannot touch anybody who is actually born again.
Right.
The wicked one cannot touch anybody born again. So,
No.
but it will get very dark. I mean, extremely dark. And it people have to be sober in this too, because you're looking at child death rising, going off the scales, right? Kind of like the old
Yes.
days when they would
Yes.
sacrifice children. You have certain ceremonies that require children, right? So when the death rate of children goes up, then you know what's happening. And it's not going to be some make believe conspiracy theorist thing. It's going to be right in people's faces. Certain schools are now being sponsored by the Church of Satan. How did that happen? Right?
That's
How did that
crazy.
happen?
That's crazy.
You also have video learning aids made from all types of, you're talking about every group out there that could ever be racist. They're putting those videos out to children and trying to get schools to sanction these videos. So expect racial tensions at a whole new level. Expect it, because they're going to assault the children, which is going to pit the parents against one another. But see, this is also a good time for Christians to do to stand up wherever they are, with the truth, right? With the truth.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you brought this out. We've seen the assault on children. We've seen the demonic assault on children in different curriculums and agendas, and the rights of parents being stripped away, even right here in America. We've seen this globally, but you're bringing up the Church of Satan now in a big way, in a big way. But that's what we're dealing with: demonic forces, principalities. We wrestle not with flesh and blood, but as Christians, but with principalities and powers. But here's the thing: too many people let Satan have too much control or too much power over them when he doesn't have any power over us, the believer. Now, the unbeliever is wide open. Am I right? I mean, just vulnerable. I mean, this is part of the darkness that you're talking about. We've got to stand up.
The world. But pastor person has to ask themselves. They have to ask themselves, who are they going to believe? They're going to believe the world, or they're going to believe the living God, right?
Yeah.
And then as Christians, it's going to require all of us Christians to be extremely, extremely responsible in just about everything we do, because there's going to be a line drawn of distinction between the world, period, and Christian folks. And Christians are going to be a target. They're already a target.
Yes,
they're going to be a bigger target, right? But again, if any Christian out there that truly believes in Christ, right, they should never fear what Satan can do because he
Amen.
has no authorization to touch you.
Amen.
He cannot touch you. He can only talk you into corrupting yourself or
That's right.
attacking somebody else. So, but this year is going to be it's going to be like it'll continue from last year, but it's going to be worse. And
It's
then we
got to
have
be
this
worse.
election issue.
Yeah.
We have a bad election issue, right?
Yeah, we do.
The issue that won't die, it
won't.
just won't go away.
No.
It's not going to go away.
It's going to get ugly, won't it? 2024 going to get real ugly with the election. Yeah, you see that.
Well, I personally, I do not believe that people are going to take it serious until it begins to happen, Pastor Paul. And then once they begin to see what's happening, many people are not going to go for it. They're just not.
Wow.
That's going to cause some complications.
I agree.
Well, put it this way, compared to last year, there are, as of this month in December, people have been hurt and many threats have gone out on all sides against those who have signed up to work for the election itself.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's already begun. So you can imagine those numbers jumping, in a very short time, a very, very short time.
Wow. Mike, I tell you, we didn't talk about Israel. We got about 3 or 4 minutes here. Is there anything you can say about where this is now? I know the pressure's building on Netanyahu like unbearable. What do you see happening in the next week or so? Do you see this thing going on for months, or is the world pressure on Netanyahu going to cause him to have to change direction?
Well, my point of view is it's the same way. They're going to disarm Israel.
Yeah,
right.
You've said that.
Israel is going to resist at all costs. They will, but unfortunately, we know the outcome of what will take place. We already know the outcome, and it seems to be lining up just as the Bible said it would.
Yeah.
Netanyahu is not, unless the sad part is this. Now, I don't say this against Benjamin Netanyahu. I say this as a potential of what the sentiment other people have. They want to take him out.
Yeah.
Okay. You already have an example of one of the Mossad members being taken out, right? And being paraded and killed. You already have Israel directly. That changed about an hour ago, but the word is coming out that they directly attacked Iran. Now, you know what that's going to cause, right?
Whoa.
Whoa.
This is breaking news. You're telling me within the hour that the word is Israel directly attacked Iran?
Yeah, that's shifting. They said they did it through proxies or whatever the case was, right?
Right.
But nope, that's changing. So that's changing.
Is that going to come out?
That's going to bring about an international mess, right? Because the world talks, but the truth is the world has not gone in to stop Iran. The world has gone in and made deals with Iran.
Yes,
right?
They have.
They did not make a deal with Israel.
No,
they made a deal with Iran.
That's right.
And so we have a NATO, this NATO mindset, might as well call it this NATO mindset, the UN, right, is against the actions of Israel.
Yep.
Why? Because they think that their religion is a redundant religion, right? That they have no right to attack those people like that. And they will disarm Israel to ensure that never happens again. The people, in the people's minds, those people at Gaza were hurt too bad, right? So when it's over, when they force the hand of Israel through the removal of an individual or the disassembly of a certain party, if they have to go that far, they will. After they do this, we know that Gaza, we know that Turkey, we know that all these guys are going to say, nope, Israel cannot have those armaments because they'll do it again, right? And so that will commence a disarming, possibly by force, of Israel. This whole world has turned against Israel.
It's in the Bible.
Speech, and the action is going to follow.
It's in the Bible. It's in the Bible that it was going to happen. And the United States is barely hanging on by a thread. And the Obama administration the Biden administration is just right on the brink of turning their back, and it's just a matter of time. What you're saying is it will happen. It's going to happen. It's already happening. And
Fastball, those guys are wolves, right?
Right. Right.
They may seem nice and smile, and that's not who they are,
No, I
right?
know.
It's
I
not who
know.
they are. And they're people like they'll shake your hand and be your friend. But if they have to kill you because of international policy, they'll say,
They
"Well, you
will.
got to understand my position. I got to kill you."
I know.
And so that's how they work. So they're twisted, their mindset like that. But Israel has hung out on their own, and I'm just
You're telling me, you know,
Benjamin Netanyahu is not going to he's not going to stop
survive.
unless unless he perceives that his country is in immediate danger, right? Um, I mean immediate danger, and he can't handle that danger. Unless he perceives that, he's not going to stop. And I don't. The world's not going to communicate anything that direct, not yet. So when the troop buildup over there in that area,
Yep.
more deployments have already come and
Yep.
more have been ordered. So something is happening.
Are
And
you
now
worried
that
about
Iran,
Turkey? Are you worried about Turkey? Because he's running
yeah,
his mouth a lot.
oh,
Erdogan.
that guy.
I
You know
know.
what?
Yep.
Turkey is
It's a powder
Turkey
keg,
is
isn't it?
that's Satan's seed, isn't it? So
Yeah, it is.
Turkey
Pergamus.
is a bad fella. They want the Islamic war to begin,
Yes, they
right?
do.
They're
Yes.
salivating for it to begin. Iran is quickly siding with Turkey, and Turkey is talking to people on back channels.
Yep.
So never think they're idle. They're not. And then we have Russia is also talking with the Middle East in coordination against NATO personnel and other part like Poland and Finland,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
The Ukraine, I fear the Ukraine is going to be swept away. And something else is going to happen that nobody really counted on. It'd be nice if it were textbook and they continued the way that analysts want it to happen, but I fear it's not. It's not going to happen that way.
Ukraine is losing. It's sliding away from them, and Poland and Romania and these guys are in Germany even. They're nervous. There's a cat on a hot tin roof. They don't know what Putin today said. This thing may expand beyond now Ukraine. You said that when he got into back in 2014. I remember this. I was in Jamaica preaching. I remember doing a broadcast from the hotel in Jamaica with you after Putin had invaded Ukraine, or the little green men were in the eastern Ukraine, okay? And we know there was Russians, and you said, hey, he's there. He's never going to leave until he
Yeah.
takes it all, till he takes it every
Yeah.
bit. Here we are 9 years later. You're still in that position, aren't you?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
is he going? Is he going to move on? Is he looking at
Well,
Romania? Or,
his legacy, right,
yep,
is Mother Russia.
yep,
He's not going to die without a legacy. He's not. His everything about him is driven towards that legacy. When he was early in his KGB days, right, he really resented what happened to his country,
yep.
and that really hurt him. In fact, there were reports at him at that time that he was deeply hurt by that. That's the only report that I've ever read about Putin ever being hurt. And so he wants to establish what was lost. He does not see this political showdown like everybody else does. He's going to establish what he needs to establish. And that means he'll never give up and give Ukraine back to anybody, right? He's
No.
going to take whatever he has to take to restore what was lost. He hates the Ukraine because it is why the whole of Russia, in his mind, the whole of Russia is the way it is right now, right? So he blames the handicap of Russia on the losing of the Ukraine and the people responsible for that and the ideologies that were behind that. And that means he does not like the rest of the world except China because they had nothing to do with it. And Iran, they had nothing to do with it. And Turkey, they had nothing to do with it, right? But everybody else is potentially guilty because they were behind the dismantling of the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
And so he wants that back.
He wants it back. Yep.
Yep.
No doubt about it. Wow. What a broadcast tonight, folks. I'm serious. That there's big news here. Mike's giving us a little bit of breaking news that we're going to probably hear about tomorrow, maybe, about Israel and some kind of direct involvement with Iran, or maybe they'll spin it, but whatever. We know it's happening, and just great information all the way around, from the heavens to the earth, to technology, and whether it be social predictive programming to whatever, to the entities crawling around in the heart of the earth, and all the effects of the sun and everything that's going on. I mean, we're coming down to the coming of Jesus Christ, okay? I don't know the day or the hour, but I'm telling you, we are moving forward at rapid speed, okay? Now, but there's still some things got to happen before Christ comes. I believe that, and I think we're seeing that develop quickly, and we need to be ready. So, Mike, I appreciate you coming on. I really do tonight. I really do. And we'll get together, Lord willing, next Thursday. What we're going to talk about? What's going to happen in the next 7 days?
Oh boy. Well, we have some of those poll states coming in.
Yep.
So that could be a potential issue, right?
Yeah. You gave us some dates on that. Issue.
So we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. I'll tell you what, if something does happen on or around those dates, that means the algorithms are getting closer and closer to accuracy. And so that's a good thing for forecasting.
That way you can get a better hand on forecasting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay. We'll keep an eye on it then.
Fastball is always an honor.
No, the honor's mine. Thank you, my brother. Thank you so much. I love you, brother.
All right, Fastball. God bless you, brother.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
Mike from the world. Look, we've been talking with him for 10 years now. I've been covering current events for 14, almost on a daily basis. I've never been here. I'm at a spot right now in my life and in my ministry and in my spirit. You have to understand. I was asked today, why did I write that book right there? And I said, because I got a vision directly from God. It said, write it. It's Revelation 9:11. He said, write it. It's about to happen. And I wanted to get it out a year ago. For some reason, I couldn't get it out with all the research, everything going on. And I think it's because God wouldn't let me, because he wanted to come out just when it is going to. I remember him telling me last year, Paul, go take as many people as you can to Israel. I've opened a window. It's a short window. Get them in. Here's the window. And we did it. 57 people went. 40 of them were baptized in the Jordan River. Lives were changed. We come back. The window closed October 7th. And will it open again? I don't know. But I know this. There's a window going to open in heaven. The Son of God is going to leave the throne. And he's coming for his bride. And that's every person that's been born again whose names are written in the Lamb's Book of Life. 1,000 people have already left. Let me tell you how people are. They think they know. They think they got it figured out. They don't have 5 minutes to wait to see if a soul needs Jesus. They ain't got time for that. And that's what's going to separate the men from the boys. That's going to separate them. They don't even have a clue. Some of you are watching right now. Jesus is speaking to your heart. This is your moment to be saved. This is your moment to be born again. I'll play a song. I'm going to stay here with you. There's a lot of good Christians that are going to stay right here and help pray you into the kingdom. They love you. They want you to come into the kingdom of God. Just type, I want to be saved. I want to be saved. I will play a Kevin Wilson song right now. And Lord willing, help me, Lord, to find it. And this is your moment. I'm going to play this song. Please, 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 please give your life to Jesus Christ as this song plays. Type, I want to be saved. I'll pray with you in just a moment.
A million hopes, a million dreams. I've carried them all over this land, and I keep holding to the promise, even though I'm not a righteous man. And I can see the highway ahead. It hums an old familiar tune, and And I'm not out here for the righteous, but the wounded ones, so they can come home too. A million hopes, a million dreams, I've carried them all over this land, and I'll share them with you.
Come on.
Even though I'm not a righteous man, and my hope is in forgiveness. It's a dream I have for all. You don't have to be righteous to qualify. Just answer when he calls, when the Lord calls now, now. Lord, I know that none are righteous, but I'm held in your nail-pierced hand.
Thank you, Jesus.
And I'll sing about perfection, even though I'm not a righteous man. Yeah, a million hopes, a million dreams, I've carried them all over this land.
The Lord is speaking to people right now. Come on, type it.
And I'll share them with you.
People are coming to Jesus, folks.
No, I'm not a righteous man, and I'll share the Lord with you, even though I'm not a righteous man.